get excited. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. So just make sure that you're all muted is the most important thing. Like I say, you don't need to have your camera on. Welcome to this goal setting for greatness. I'm going to take my glasses off now. Welcome to this goal setting for greatness. If you don't already have this close to hand, grab yourself pen and paper. I don't mind if the paper is at the back of an envelope, around the edges of a newspaper, around your old diary from last year, but you will want to take notes and you will want to implement some of these nuggets. So I'm going to get started, and what I am going to do for most of the time is I'm going to be speaking to you like this, looking at you right there. I can't see you unless you've got your camera on, but what I'll also do is I do have a little PDF that I've created for this. So what I'll ask the ITT to do after this is I'll ask if you're not already on their mailing list, get on their mailing list, because they'll let you know of where you can watch this again if you need to. And I'll also send through the PDF so that they have it and they can send it to you. But what I'll do throughout this training is I will share this. Now, I know on the LinkedIn box, it said the training's due to go for 2 hours. So I'll just let you know how everything's going to work. I'm basically going to give you some really great and useful goal setting nuggets. And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A. If you've got questions that you want to ask that come up throughout this, then I'll invite you in the chat box to type a big Q and then your question. The best thing to do is give me the question first, and if you want to give me the context afterwards, then do that. So you might say something like, what do I do if I think I've got too many goals? And then you might say, last year I did this, blah, 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 blah. It makes it easier for me just to kind of read that out and get that sorted. So without any further ado, I'm just going to jump straight into the training. So the first thing that I really wanted to say is that this is for you as a travel professional, whether you're studying, whether you've been there for a long time, whether you've come out of travel, whether you're trying to get back into travel. But this is really for you if you want to create, set, and achieve your goals for 2021, so 2021. And this event is an ITT Future You event. And as their mentor of the year, they very kindly, we spoke about what we thought would serve you best. And they very kindly allowed me and gave me this pleasure to present this to you now. So that's why I'm here today. As a one-liner, my name's Jenny Kovacs, and I know I haven't met a lot of you before, but by all means, if you're on LinkedIn or on social media, you'll find me out there as the queen of being seen on Instagram, on Facebook. I've got a Facebook business page there. You'll find me in all the normal places. And just recently I've joined Clubhouse, which is very new, audio and highly addictive. So I've been on there as well. So do connect with me, because I always get curious about what you do with all of this information. So today, what we're going to be covering, in fact, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and I'm just going to let in these people that have joined. And the minute you admit someone, then there's other people to admit all. Okay, excellent. I'm just going to very quickly share my screen, just so that you can see what I'm reading and why I'm doing this at you. And just by way of curiosity, who came to the previous masterclass that the ITT held? If you did, type yes in the box. If you didn't, type no, that's all okay too. Just let me know and I will share my screen. Oh, you found the reactions. That's great. So for those of you that haven't seen the reactions, I know that, Zoom, oh no, I don't want to end the meeting at all. I know that Zoom changes very rapidly. At the bottom of the screen, you will see that there is reactions. You can do thumbs up, love, celebrations. They stay on your profile for about 10 seconds and then they disappear. So really great to see. So this is where I need to move the controls because they're over where I need them to be. Time to Shine series, goal setting for a better year. And what a year it's been, eh? What a year it has been. I know we're going to be going into more of the same in some respects, but very different things. And this is why I wanted to at least be able to share some of this information with you, because I think, and I know it will make a difference to your year. It's made a difference to many of mine. It's made a difference to many of the private clients and corporate clients that I've worked with as well. So now it's asking me to admit somebody, but not letting me get to them. So I'll be with them in a second. Here's what we're going to be doing. In this highly interactive class, I'll be asking you questions, getting you to type in the box. I won't be asking you to share anything you don't want to share, of course. And, you know, for those of you that sent me through questions before, I will answer them and I'll answer them anonymously. If you would like to unmute and come on and have a discussion with me as if you were one of my private clients, and just so that you know, the private clients can pay me anything kind of, you know, upward to hundreds of pounds for an hour. Not all of them do, but some do. So you're really getting good and tangible value. If you would like to do that, then we'll open this up. And I'll happily stay on to answer any questions. If you've got to go after the hour, I totally respect your time too. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about how to get started when you're going for your goals, because we want you to do that. I'm going to share with you some practical techniques that will help to make the goal stick. Okay, confession time. Anyone ever set a goal and after maybe a few weeks, a few months or something, it's kind of dropped off and fizzled into the background? If that's you, thumbs up. No shame in this game, as I like to say. And if that's never ever happened to you before, then maybe you can give me, there's a reaction that looks very surprised. The face looks a bit like this. So maybe that's you. I'm also going to let you know what to avoid when setting goals, because sometimes we pick up pieces around the ethers around goal setting. And there are many things, especially when I get the chance to speak to people sort of more privately, they tell me that they tried this thing and it didn't work, or they tried that thing and then this thing happened. And often it's because they've actually included the wrong things with goal setting. So we're going to actually go through these today. I'm going to talk to you about what goal setting is and what it isn't, as well as what it means for you. I'll talk about why it's so important, or why they're so important, and we'll have some practical tips. And we'll end it with a big juicy Q&A where, as I say, you get to ask me lots of questions. So I'm going to come out of the shared screen, if I can, if my mouse will let me. Come on, mousey. Oops, that's better. And I'm going to let in all of those people who are waiting to be let in. Okay, admit them all. Okay, this is good. So the first thing to think about before we even dive into the goal setting is this. There are key drivers that we all have, and we're all individual people, we're all very different. And when we try to tap in, or when we do tap in to what's important to us and what drives us, that's where we get the most success. And rather than explain to you everything about how that works and have your head exploding, here's what you need to know. This session specifically is for you. Whether you're a parent or a grandparent, whether you're a lecturer, a student, whether you're a manager, an exec, whether you're a member of staff, a member of the team. And here's why. And I never am afraid of using this analogy. As they say on the aeroplanes, put your own oxygen mask on first. For those of you who are setting goals so that you can do things for other people, you need to be able to wear your oxygen mask first. So for this session, look at how you can affect what you do and not what everybody else does. The next thing is you may hear some very new concepts and ideas here, and that's great. Note them down, and I love a note taker, but I also like you to take action. And for that reason, I always have a yellow notepad. I've left it to one piece of paper so I'm not rustling, but I also have a yellow notepad. And as well as taking notes on the notepad, I'll write down, well, what am I actually going to do? This will make the difference, of the biggest difference, what you're going to do. If you hear me say something and you think to yourself, oh, you know what? I've heard that before. I know this. Again, that's fine. I don't have any problem with that. What I would suggest that you do is that you think, well, how can I build on that thing that I know? It's very, very important. So this is a great driver. Now, you will find lots of ideas, especially when I'm answering someone else's question. It might pop an idea into your mind, and that's great. You'll find there's lots of ideas, but without any action or any implementation, nothing ever changes. So what I invite you to do is write down the ideas you have, the options that come up, but also trust me, trust this process as we go through the step by step by step. It will give you the best results. And I've done this with thousands of people now, over 2 decades. So something else to know. Some of you, when it comes to setting goals, you'll be more focused towards going for a goal. And some of you will want to get away from that. Let me give you a kind of generic example. Think about money. Some people are going for the goal. I want X amount in the bank in my savings. And some people are getting away from something. So I want to get out of debt. Literally, we say get out of debt. We're running away from that feeling. Now, neither of these are good or bad, right or wrong. They're just different. And as soon as you can identify in any given moment which one you're at, are you going for it? Are you going to, build the business, or are you going to go for the new role? Are you going to go for the promotion? Or are you sick and tired of doing what you're doing now and you want to get away from it? This is really important because it will enable you to be able to be your most effective self and have the sort of drive that you feel proud of. So don't worry if you chat to a friend or a work colleague and they think about it differently. We are all built differently. We all made ourselves this way, actually. I'm just going to turn my light up a bit as it gets darker. Turn it around a bit so I don't look quite so ghostly, or maybe I look more ghostly now. So this is something that's a really important thing to know in Drive. Now, while I'm teaching, training, giving you these ideas, the facilitator of these ideas, there'll be things that you'll want to put into action straight away. And there'll be things that you can put into action straight away. However, there will also be sometimes where you'll just need a bit of time for reflection. And this is the reason why, even though it's great to take action notes to implement what it is you want to do, it's also a good idea to allow yourself time really to sleep on it. In this masterclass, what makes it a masterclass more so than a webinar is I'm going to be telling you about these goal setting things and actually giving you the how, as opposed to the, well, that's it. If you need it, off you go. Obviously, we've got a very specific amount of time. So because we've got a limited amount of time, I'm going to share as much as I can with you in the time we've got. And for those of you that think, well, I'd like to know a bit more, it's a very good reason to follow the ITT on social media. And if you feel inclined, myself on social media. I give a lot of kind of free information out there. And sometimes you'll want more, and it's not too uncommon for people to contact me after this and say, Jenny, I actually just want to work with a coach, or let me know about a workshop or any programs that you've got that might help me. And the other thing, which I'd be very grateful for those of you who think this would be useful within your organisation, I do come into organisations and give talks and stuff there as well. So if you think that's useful, then by all means let me know. However, this masterclass will give you everything that you need for now. So, have you ever found yourself, and this is the place to start, have you ever found yourself struggling when it comes to setting goals? Maybe this is a time of year that's right for New Year's resolutions and you found yourself kind of falling off the wagon a bit. Maybe you've struggled with not setting the goals, but keeping or maintaining momentum for the goals. Maybe you worry about specific areas and things in your life, be it professional or personal, and that's had you think to yourself, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? The other thing that often comes up, sometimes you might just feel really driven to go for it, go for your dreams, going for your goals, but you find yourself thinking, oh, it would be so nice to do this. if I had a magic wand, I would, you know, or something like that. So if that's you, then this will be really, really useful. So I'm just going to make sure that everyone is muted, because I've just heard a little background thingy there. Okay. It is possible to accidentally unmute yourselves, by the way. I'm not being patronizing. I found out, of course, if you are on a computer and you accidentally hit the space bar, it will temporarily unmute you. So just so that you know and you're aware of that as well. Okay. So this is what I love about goals. Now, some people don't always feel comfortable with goals. They feel it's too kind of forceful or driven, and that's okay. Sometimes you call them intentions, sometimes you call them other people have said, like, I want to set these objectives. You know, the language that you use is important for you. Okay, so term them whatever you feel you need to term them. This is part of building your own almost process map of getting these things out there. Okay, and one of the things that I hear a lot that people say is they'll say, I really want to do, and they'll actually voice a goal. And then very quickly, they'll talk themselves out of why they can't do it. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go through some steps with you and some things to get really crystal clear that will definitely help when setting your goals. And by the way, if you see me looking down, I'm just looking at my phone for certain notes, because there's a few of the things that I want to share with you and I want to make sure that I don't miss. So that's what I'm looking at now. Okay, so the first thing before we even start setting goals, and I'll be interested to know if anyone else has kind of hit this phase when it comes to goal setting as well. The first thing to know, I'm just going to put that's it on full screen. That's better. I'm not so distracted now. Okay. Just make sure. Okay, I can see someone's on my screen, so hopefully you can still see me. In fact, let me just do a quick check. Can you still see me? Give me a thumbs up, reaction, or a yes in the chat box if you can still see me on the screen. Oh, brilliant. Yes. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so here's one of the things that we need to start with goals. It was interesting because I've been reading a lot this time of year. Some people are stuck because they're saying to themselves, well, how do I even get started when I set a goal? Like, so is anyone stuck? Is anyone in that place where they really feel like it's a new year and they want to set some goals, but they may be stuck on, well, what exactly is the goal? You know, how do I actually get started in this process of setting a goal? If anyone else is in there, then just say yes. Okay. If anyone's stuck with when it comes to set goals, just type the word stuck in there. The reason I do that is I can see where you are and I'll know whether to go deeper into what I'm going to say or whether to move on. Okay, thank you. Thank you for letting me know that. So here's the reason why we sometimes get stuck. Sometimes it's hard to know, well, where do we put our focus? So in coaching, it's very popular that people talk about like a life wheel. So if you think about or if you're very visual, draw a circle on your page and divide it up into sort of 6 or 8 segments. Here are the most popular areas that people have often come to me even when it comes to setting goals. So the first one, and it's almost the most obvious one in this context, is in terms of our profession. Sometimes there are goals that we want to set for work. Okay, so if you've got a goal that you want to set for work, that will be one slice of the segment. So you can say professional, and actually, as I write it down, as I say this, I'm actually going to write it down here because I will circle back to that. So one point is, it could be professional. It could be, I want to do better in this job and get a promotion. It could be, I want a new job. It could be, I want to change industry. It could be, I want to take a certain qualification so that I'm well versed in this role. It could be, I really like what my boss does, but I'm not too sure whether it's something I want to do, so I want to mentor them. I want to have more conversations with people at work and get to know them more. I want to have less conversations with people. I want to attend more industry events. I want to build up my skills, my knowledge, my behavior. I'm kind of spitting popcorn at you because with some of you, some of those things may have resonated and you might have thought, actually, yes, that's something around what I want to do. There's comments that it's harder to know what's achievable with all the uncertainty. Don't worry, I've got you on that because I'm actually going to cover that as we go through these processes now. And that's a lot for a lot of us at the moment, the uncertainty. So one segment might be professional or career. Another might be relationships. It could be professional or personal relationships. It could be, this is the year that I actually want to get married. This is the year that I want to find a new partner. This is the year that my partner does my head in, so I'm going to like trot on in a different direction. All of these things are their intentions. They're where we want to head towards to. Okay. So it could be relationships in that way. The other most popular one is health. We've had, we're now in the third lockdown, and we've had, for those of you in the UK, we've had a few lockdowns. And my first one, I know that I probably tested all the different nice gyms that were out there and, sat in the house and ate. And every time I picked up my pen, it felt like I opened the fridge door, and picked up a crisp or something. So it could be that you have some health objectives that you want to put in a goal. So health is another piece. Another one that comes up at this time of year, finances, for all sorts of different reasons. Sometimes you might want to grow your finances. Sometimes you might want to repair your finances. Sometimes this pandemic may have made you think about, well, I want to stabilize things. And even though it might not seem possible, it's absolutely doable. So with just some of those examples, is anyone starting to get kind of new ideas? If you are, type yes in the box. If you're still stuck, then write down a question that you might have, because then we might be able to get there. Is that helpful? Oh, yes, lots of yes is very helpful. There are all sorts of things. You might kind of chunk it down into something more, you might want to learn how to play the drums, or you might want to learn how to bake this time around, or cook. So it could be something around that. One of the things that I think is important to add into that kind of segment, if you like, is fun. What will you do for fun? Do you want a new hobby? Will the new hobby involve training? Last year, I don't know that I'd call this a hobby, but last year I was very lucky to be entered into the London Marathon. Actually, 2019, I went for the ballot, and I have to say I've never run a marathon before, never run a half marathon, never run a 10K race. And I decided, after all the inspiration of the 2018 London Marathon, I want to do that. Why? Because at the moment, I can't run a marathon. I wouldn't have a clue how to. So I set myself this goal. And the first step of the goal, which was completely outside of my control, was to at least enter the ballot. Well, holy moly, did I swear, and I'm not even going to lie about this. When I got the email in the October 2019 that said, congratulations, you have been successful in your ballot, I think I went, as I read the email, and then I swore for about 5 minutes. And then I thought, I've got to do this. I want to do this. I've got to do this. So to hold myself accountable, I did what every modern day gal does. I posted to my friends on Facebook a screenshot and went, look, I'm in, because that gave me a little bit less of a get out clause. So in order to run a marathon, you've got to train, you've got to think about what you're going to eat up to the marathon, during the marathon, and all sorts of things. A lot of the things around the marathon were still outside of my control. But all I did was I looked at what I could control. Let me tell you a quick story, one that I do share with clients every now and then. I'll take a sip of water so I don't cough through the story. When we get concerned about things that are outside of our control, and at the moment, there are a lot of things that are outside our control, what it does, it actually causes us to take the focus of our goals and put the focus on all of the things that we don't want. So in fact, I'm not going to tell you the story now. I'm going to tell you at the end. So you'll have to remind me, because I get very excited and I might forget. I don't want to. I'll tell you. I'll make sure I tell you it at the top of the hour. So if you do need to go, that you know. So I know Donna's very reliable. Donna, say to me, Jenny, the story. And I think Donna may have heard the story before when I've spoken, because I remember speaking in London and Donna was there too. So I'll just make a note for myself so I don't forget. Okay, and so here's the thing. Sometimes things are outside our control. We can't worry about them. We can't put our focus there. In fact, most people that achieve what feels like the unachievable, they will put their focus on what they can do, what they control. And a favorite kind of guru who's now passed of mine, Wayne Dyer, always says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Let me say that again. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I had to tell myself, I had to stop telling myself, oh, I could never run a marathon. Because guess what happened when I started going out there and running? I wanted to stop because I couldn't run a marathon. So when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. You start to observe opportunities, moments, possibilities. You become a bit more brave, you take a bit of courage, you maybe ask somebody about something, you know, you reach out, and it does make a difference, I can assure you. Okay, so hopefully now you've got some ideas. Professional, personal, health, finances, fun, fitness, you know, anything like that. And nothing really is off board. Even if it's something that nobody else has ever put down, that's okay too. So you can enjoy that. So now I hope many of you are unstuck. Some of you may be on the other end of the spectrum where you weren't stuck for ideas. You've got a gazillion different things. And if that's you, here's what I recommend you do. Now, I'm an unashamed fan of stationery. Get yourself a notebook. In fact, I've got some behind me. Get yourself a notebook or two. This is, as you can see, is a small notebook. And every time you have a goal, write one goal per page. And the reason that I'm an advocate of writing it as opposed to typing it into your phone, there's something about the brain, heart, mind connection. When you physically write it down, you can really connect with that goal. And in a moment, I'll be showing you how to really set the goals for success. So if you're on the other end of the spectrum, you're not stuck, but you've got a gazillion goals, write them down. One per page, a nice small notebook. You can put in your back pocket, you can put in your handbag. If you carry a handbag, you can carry around with you. And every time you think of another one, you can write it down. I do this all the time. I encourage my clients to do this all the time. So now you've unearthed some goals, and if you've had, as we've been talking through this piece, if you've had some ideas of some goals already, make a note of them from wherever you are. There's no perfect way to make them, but just capture them now so that you can go back to them. And we're going to use one of those goals to then go through this whole goal setting process. Okay, so now there are some practical techniques I'm going to share with you. Here's why sometimes goals don't stick. Sometimes they don't stick because they're not clear. In fact, I would say 99.9% of the time, people will come to me with a goal and they'll say, yeah, I'm really clear on what I want, and they'll tell me it. And although it's clear what they want, there's ways to, in my term, I call clean it up. I say we can clean that up a bit. And once we've cleaned it up, it gives you the kind of clarity that has you feel excited about the goal, and you go for it even when you're not thinking about it, which I know sounds nuts, but I've seen this happen time and time again. Sometimes they're not specific enough. You know, I was speaking to somebody before Christmas who was very, very senior within a business. They were like a managing director level. And they were saying, yeah, I'm really good at setting goals. You know, I achieve targets and I do this and I do that. And I said, okay, let's play for a second. Just give me one of your goals. And they gave me one of the goals. And I said, like, well, when do you want it by? And they said, oh, I know it's going to be next year. And I said, but next year, like if right now we say next year, we mean 20 22. There's 365 days of those years. That's not very specific, and it's not clear, and it doesn't give us the instruction to go for it. That is one very simple way to not achieve a goal. So again, I'll show you how you can do that. So who's heard of the goal setting technique, which is the acronym to it is SMART? Anyone? If you've heard of that, then thumbs up or a yes, or type SMART in the box. And this is where a goal is perceived as specific, measurable, action orientated, realistic, and timely. SMART goals. This is something that is rolled out a lot, especially in management training, coaching training, and things like that. And I'm going to burst your bubble a little bit. It's a good place to start, but it's not the best place to start, because within there, sometimes people will kind of cascade through and they still don't have the sort of clarity that actually gets them to achieve the goal. So I'm going to show you what to do instead to really hone that down. The other reason that sometimes people get stuck into a goal is that they get into the how. Like they'll say, I want a new job. And then they'll say, oh my gosh, you know, it could be within the company or somewhere else. And they'll go, but how's that going to happen? There's a pandemic on, there's not many jobs around. And they go straight to how it's going to happen. Now, this is what I like about training out this process. This goal setting process, you don't actually need to know how. And I know that some of you that I've worked with in the past on here can attest to this. It sounds nuts at the time when I say, like, if you had a magic wand and you could have whatever you wanted for this goal as a result, what would it be? And for a few blissful moments, you'll tell me, you'll write it down, and you'll be like, oh, all is good in the world. And then you'll go, oh, but, you know, but there's this, but that, but. And then very quickly we'll stop ourselves. That thought process, that thought mechanism actually stops us from getting the goals that we want, because we get too worried about, well, how is it going to happen? So if we get clarity on the goal first, set the goal first, then we can have a look at the opportunities of how, okay? The other thing that I would urge you to do is when you create your goals, be very careful who you share them with. Be very careful who you share them with. I know from personal experience and client experience, there are goals that I set for myself. I might even tell a loved one, a family member, oh my gosh, this is so exciting, I'm going to do this thing. And you get that look, you know, the, really? Or because they want to protect you and it's not their goal and not their dream or not their desire, they'll tell you all the reasons why you can't have it, you know. And I'm going to share, is it all right for me to share personally and vulnerably and openly with you on this? Because I think it will be helpful. If it is, thumbs up, or a, you know, or a yes or a Y in the box, you know, or share, Jenny, share, or no, shut up, Jenny, we don't want to know. So here's why this is important. In March 2020, at the beginning of lockdown, I lost about 90% of my business. I couldn't go to my boss and say, give me something else to do, because I am my boss. And at that time, I changed the way I thought about things, and the things I thought about changed. Now, I have some very good friends around me who were also concerned. I was getting ready to dust off my CV to send to like the supermarkets. I really was, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I had no control over what was going on outside in the outside world. And because of that, I really worried, like, what is going to happen? Will I have to wind my business up? Blah, 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 blah. So I decided I wanted to go through my system. I created a visibility system, which this is an integral part of. Being able to set the goals is an integral part of that. And as I went through the system and worked my own system and raised my own visibility and set my own goals, something really weird started to happen. In the middle of a pandemic where people were in lockdown and allegedly didn't have any money to spend, I started getting new clients, which was really weird. That wasn't supposed to happen. I was supposed to be going into, just checking hope I'm still on there. I got your internet is unstable. I was thinking I was going to have to go and work in a supermarket. Not that there's anything wrong with working in a supermarket, by the way. And I was thinking the whole course of my life was going to change. So when I spoke to my mum, who lives over in Barbados now, and she was just like, oh, but Jennifer, you know, it's going to be really hard for you and this, that, and the other, and you should do this and you should do that. That's an idea that sometimes we share with somebody, and in a really well-meaning way, they want to protect us. They want to make sure we're safe. They want to keep us safe. So they'll start to put in their own ideas. And I could have listened to what she had to say and gone, you know what, she's right. I've got no chance. What am I doing? Am I deluded? You know, do I need to do something else? And all of that kind of stuff. So that was one of the things that can come up. So even if it's a close partner of yours, you know, if it's that you want to, you know, be a fashion model and you think that your partner or your family will laugh at the idea, keep your goal sacred. Don't share it with them. This is important because a goal acts like a destination, and your only job is to use the sat nav to get to that destination. How you get there actually isn't important. If you take a detour, that's not important. There's a saying that I love. I don't know who said this originally. Put your plan, keep your goals in stone and your plans in sand. Put your goals in stone and your plans in sand. That means have your firm goals. How you're going to get there can be in sand. They can, you know, can take the long route over the top of the mountain, underneath, or whichever way you want. But make sure that you have your goal set in stone. So I hear you cry, well, how do I do that, Jenny? It's all well and good you telling us all about marathons and supermarkets and all of that kind of stuff, but how do I do it? Who's ready to set some goals? Let me see. Are you still awake? Have you started cooking dinner? Who is ready to set some goals? Say, I am, in the box if you are. Who's ready to set some goals? Well, one of you is. That's good. Oh, there you go. I am. Cool. Excellent. Okay. So here's where we're going to start. We do things very consciously. So we've got our conscious mind, the one that, you know, we're looking around and, you know, very alert. And then we've got the subconscious mind, the bit that goes in the background. And I'm going to talk a bit about the subconscious mind in a little while, but I want to start with helping you set the goals. So the first thing that I was saying before, in order to get the goal and to achieve the goal, remember when I was talking about the wheel, I was talking about personal, professional, fun, health, wellness. Who has got one goal they can work on? If you do, I hope you do. Even if you've got more than one goal, that's fine too, but just pick one. If you're a bit like, oh, well, I'm indecisive, I don't know which goal to pick, maybe pick the one that might make the biggest difference to you now, okay? And really check in with yourself, the one that will make the biggest difference to you now. Oh, some of you have got 3. I like that. I like that. I've got a whole book of them. Once you get started on this, like, you can't stop. 4. Oh, we've got 4. Anyone got more than 4? I feel like an auction. Anyone got more than 4? No, 4. No, 7. No, 7. I see 7 over there. Something like that. But here's a good way. If you've got a few goals and you're now like, oh my gosh, I don't know which one to pick, make the one that's going to make the biggest difference. For example, if right now in this moment in time you are stressed out beyond belief, your next best goal might be the fun goal, the thing that will help you function, because you've realized that when you're really stressed out, you can't think straight, you don't function in the same way, you maybe don't eat as well, sleep as well. So it could be that. Your next goal could be to get better sleep. Do you know how many of my clients, I feel like I should retrain as a sleep therapist, how many of my clients, just by talking about how they sleep or they don't sleep, makes the biggest difference. So pick one. Now, you ready for the juice? When we set a goal, we think we're clear on it, but sometimes we're not. So with that goal that you've just picked on your piece of paper, now this is going to seem weird, but I don't actually need to know what your goal is. I can kind of give you these instructions, you can write it down and it will still work. And again, you get a chance to ask questions at the end if you need to. So with that goal that you've written down, write it down in like a sentence, 1 or 2 sentences. I will be quiet while you write it. Write it in 1 or 2 sentences. So expand on what it is that you want in the goal. So as an example, if you've written down cake maker, or like me last year, marathon, write down that goal in a sentence. So I might have written something down like, I want to run the London Marathon. And I don't want to give up halfway through. And I don't want to be one of those people that takes like 15 hours to finish it, you know, but write it down in a sentence. I'll be quiet for a second, take a sip of water. I'm actually going to put you on gallery view. So even though I can't see your faces, I can see some of your photos and your names. I'm also just going to check the waiting room to make sure. This is the part where there are people in the waiting room that have been waiting for like 10 minutes trying to get in. Just shrink my screen for a second. So write that goal down. Stay with that one goal, otherwise it becomes a bit kind of confusing. Each goal almost has an energy to it. Okay. Okay, I think that there's no one in the waiting room. That's good. Okay, so have you all done that, or have you all written your goal? Give me a thumbs up on the reactions or something like that if you have. Excellent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Some of you might still be writing. Okay, looking at the next page. Excellent. If you're still writing, scribble quickly. Okay, so the first thing to know about setting a goal and how to get it clear. This needs to be clear for you, but this also needs to be clear to give the right instruction to the subconscious mind. The bit that, if you're thinking, what are you talking about, subconscious mind? This is the mind that when you're asleep, helps you to keep breathing, helps your heart beat, and do all the things that you don't consciously think about doing. This is the bit that when you're walking down the street, unless you're somebody who's had a specific accident, normally a brain injury, that has to think about it and has learnt to walk. When you're walking down the street, I guarantee you're not saying to yourself, lift my right thigh up, kick my knee forward, put my foot down. You're not thinking about that. You just do it automatically. It's the bit that when you're driving a car and you're on a motorway maybe, or driving through somewhere that you know. Anyone ever done that thing where you're driving and you're deep in thought and 2 or 3 miles have passed? You haven't been asleep, you've been driving, you've been concentrating, but your mind's gone off somewhere else. This is the subconscious mind. Now, there are ways you can use the subconscious mind that very kind of Derren Brown and, and we, in other topics, I do have some fun with how you can use that to help you. However, here's the thing. That subconscious mind needs a clear instruction. As a very quick experiment, if I say to you, whatever you do now, do not think of an elephant with Madonna's head on it. Do not think of an elephant with Madonna's head on it. For many of you, in fact, for all of you, some of you will be really consciously aware that for a few seconds, you got an elephant with Madonna's head on it. Now, the reason for that is the subconscious part of our brain doesn't think in words, it thinks in pictures. So what we tell it to do, especially when we're setting a goal, becomes really, really important. So where you've written your goal down and what you want, can you just check for me, and I'll trust you all not to cheat, can you just check for me that where you've written it down, you've written the thing that you want, not the thing that you don't want. Now, I kind of steered you in the direction. If I was Jenny speaking to Jenny, I'd be like, okay, Jenny, what did you write down? And I'd say, I wrote down that I want to run a marathon, but I want to run the whole thing. I don't want to stop. I don't want to get too out of breath. You know, don't want to be one of the people that finishes. Every place where I've said, but I don't want A, B, C, D, I've spoken more about the things that I don't want than the things that I do want. So if when you've written it down, you've said something like, I want to be promoted this year, but I don't want to do something, or you've written the word not in there, then put a line through it. Put a line through it. Anybody happy to, you know, to share that they've written down their goal, but they've maybe put a few things that they don't want in there? This is perfectly normal, by the way. It's something that people do every time. A tricky little critter is the smoking one. In my early days as an NLP practitioner, neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, people would come to me and say, Jenny, I want to give up smoking. That subconscious part of your brain hears you say, I give up and smoking, but it still wants to smoke. I know that sounds weird. Or I don't want to. If you've got a don't, like do not, the word doesn't, the subconscious mind, sorry, doesn't hear the word not. So if you say to yourself, I don't want to smoke anymore, you're saying, I do not want to smoke anymore. And your brain is saying, I do blank want to smoke more. And guess what happens? Your subconscious mind takes the instruction, goes, okay, well, you want to smoke more. My job is done. I'll do it. I know that sounds really strange. It's how that part of our brain works. So when you're writing the first part of your goal and stating what you want, I always say to people, what do you want? State it in the positive. And when you say it's in the positive, what that means is you're saying what you want, but you're avoiding writing the rest of it. So if you've written all the, oh, I don't want this, I don't want that, then scribble it out. Does that make sense? Because this is something that doesn't often get kind of like spoken about when it comes to goal setting. And also for those of you with all the other goals on there, I want you to be able to go through all the other goals that you've written down in your spare time in, you know, the next few days and weeks, and be able to make that happen. Because shall I tell you something about New Year's resolutions, which is one of the most famous goals for many people in the year. Most people will break their New Year's resolutions by, you ready for this? In fact, guess what? Guess when people are likely, let's say, for example, you've set your goal on the 1st of January. When do you think people are most likely to have broken their goal? Type in the box. We've got the 5th, we've got the 2nd, we've got the 18th, we've got the 6th, we've got, sorry, I should wear my glasses when I do this, we've got the 2nd, within a week, first week, first 24 hours, New Year's Day. I like that. Yeah, I'm going to run a marathon. No, sod that. It's actually the 17th of January. 17 the day before. I'm going to set a goal tomorrow. No, I'm not. That's it. It's the 17th of January. It's like the month hasn't even gone. So when we get used to setting our goals in a way that's really clear, where we state what we want, we've already given the chances of that happening. And I have had the foresight and the good fortune to sit with people as they work through their goals and see this play out. I've had clients who have said in the January, I remember the 4th of January, a few years ago, somebody had said, I want to buy a car and I want to buy a car by June, you know, and by June they'd bought the car and they'd almost forgotten about the fact that they'd said that. Someone else said they wanted to sleep better, and 4 days later she's telling me, oh my gosh, my sleep is so much better, I feel less tired already, I'm going to keep going. You know, there's so many benefits. So writing the thing down and saying what you want, stating what you want, is the first key. This helps you to crystallize it and get really clear. Now the next step of that, because as you write it down, some of you will be writing it down and you'll feel a bit kind of like you're faking it. I want to run a marathon, and there's a part of you going, oh my gosh, like this is never going to happen. So if anyone's experiencing that, there's a good reason for it. Don't worry. It's perfectly normal and there's a good reason for it. The reason for it is normally that you have some concerns. So when I said I wanted to run the marathon, I've got some concerns. I've never run a marathon before. So if you've written down your goal and you've crossed out the nots and the can'ts and the where you're not going to go with it, then have a look at the next piece. Like if you still feel like, I don't think this is going to happen. If I ask you the question, so what's your concern about goal that you've written down? An answer will pop into your head. For you A-type driven people, an answer will pop into your head and you'll quickly have dismissed that and gone, no, not that. Yes, that. Even if it seems random. Even if it seems random. So if I say to you, so Jenny, you want to run the marathon, but you're not sure about this. What's your concern? In my instance, it was, but I've never done this before. 26 miles is a long way. So whatever comes up to you, the supplementary question after you've asked yourself, so what is my concern? Like voice it, don't hide it. I've never done this before. Fine. So then what you do is you take what you wrote down in the first sentence as an example. I want to run the marathon, but I'm concerned that I won't finish it because it's a long way. Write that all down, and then you ask yourself, this is one of the most like powerful forms of self-coaching that I can give you, and I really hope it serves you. So you ask yourself, okay, if I run the London Marathon and I do finish it, even though I haven't run one before, would I go for that goal? You'll get a sense of a yes in your body. Now, some of you might have asked yourself that question, like, what's my concern? You've written your concern down. So you've read the goal from the start. This is the goal I want. My concern is this. So if I could have the goal that I want and you address the concerns, would I go for it? Would I take it? Would I do it? Some of you would have already felt a more 100% yes. That yes feels like a yeah. Some of you are, and when I'm speaking to clients, like privately, I'll say, so if you could do this thing and this thing and not have this thing happen, would you take it? And they go, sorry, that's not a yes. Anything that's not a yes is a no. And that's okay, because there's another concern. So if you're one of those people that just asked yourself the question and gone, oh, no, I don't know, I'm still worried about this thing, then say, okay, so now if you could have the goal that you've written down without the concern that you had the first time round or the concern that you had the second time round, would you take it? You'll feel it literally in your gut. Yeah, absolutely. You know that expression, that feels right? Or it might be that sounds right. You'll feel that yes. I know this sounds a really weird thing to say. The people who go for their goals and achieve their goals, and sometimes before they even thought they would, have normally nailed this. And sometimes they haven't even been taught it. Maybe they've seen it or modeled it from someone around them, so it's enabled them to do it. Olympic athletes, world-class champions, people that are driven to go for something. Maybe they're philanthropic. Okay. One of the things that we don't do enough is that we don't do this for ourselves. So anyone experienced a bit of actually, yeah, now I've done that. Yes, that's very different. If you have, let me know, give me a thumbs up or, something feels different, and it will. And I'm not doing any kind of magic on anybody. It will. If not, don't worry. More than happy to jump on here and I'll answer questions in a moment. Okay, so a few thumbs up, that's good. Okay, just something I want to check. If as you went through the goal setting piece, even when it came to choosing the goals, remember from personal, professional and all of that, and don't forget the story, I won't, thank you. Personal, professional, health or something else, if you, when you went through that, you had worries or you had concerns, get used to writing them down as opposed to typing them up. Write them down. Even if you write them down on a piece of paper and throw it away afterwards, that's okay too. Get them out of the subconscious mind. When you see them, that actually starts to help dissipate it. And when you write it down, it makes a difference. Okay, so if you've got concerns, one of the things, I'm going to quickly just share my screen and show you why I wanted to be able to share this handout. Hopefully you can all see my screen. Oops. Sharing is paused. Let me try that again. See my screen. Yes. Oh, it keeps pausing. Can you all see that on my screen? Give me a thumbs up if you can, if it's showing nothing. There should be a picture of a duck with some things around it. Okay, I'm going to assume that you could see that. Brilliant. Okay, so any concerns that you've got, and this is part of the printout that I've created for you, any concerns that you've got, get used to writing them down somewhere where you can see them. That duck are any kind of dark concerns that you've had lurking around. And what this process does is it takes them out of hiding, lets you see them, and then you can do something about it. So here's the story that I wanted to tell you, and here's why this is so important. When we have concerns about a goal, we sometimes create within ourselves anxiety, worry, stress, anything else like that. So this story is one that I tell to clients, especially when we look at it through the lens of, but, I can't, this is out of my control. I can't do anything. And this is based on the story of some Olympians. And I think on this particular year, these were rowers. These rowers were out in Canada and they had been out there for a few months before the Olympics, training really, really hard. And when it came to the day of the race, they were, wheedled down into the finals and they were getting ready to go out there. And of course, the press come and the press give their interviews. So the press was speaking to the crew and the captain, and they said, what are you thinking about the race today? And the captain said, we've trained really, really hard. We've trained hard for many months leading up to this. We're confident that we've got as good a chance as anyone to win it. And then the guy from the press said, yeah, but they said there's been some freaky weather. It's been extra windy. A lot of people have struggled. What do you think to that? And the captain said, you know what? It's one of those things. It is windy out there and some people have struggled, but it's outside my boat. Anything that's outside my boat, I can't control. And the press guy said, that's fine. Some of the other teams have said that the temperature's been really unusual for this time of year. And some of them have struggled with, the temperature outside and what's been going on. How do you think you'll cope with that? And the captain said, well, the crew and I were talking about this and we will carry on because that's outside our boat. And then the press said, so what about, the American team? The American team are tipped to be the strongest team. They've got more manpower, more experience of all of this. How do you think you're going to compete with them? And again, the captain and the crew said, you know what? It's a tough competition. It's going to be tough for all of us here. But you know what? They're in a different boat. They're outside our boat. So here's what I'll say to you. For those of you who are worried about the circumstances, the environment, and the things that are going on out there in the world, with the best will in the world, you can't control it because it's outside of your boat. Anytime you feel fear, anxiety, or worry, focus back on your goal or your goals that you've set because everything else is outside your boat. I really hope that that's helpful for setting these goals moving forward. I'd love to open this up now to the Q&A section. As I say, I will literally stay on here and answer all the questions you've got. If you would like to speak your question out, and there's no pressure to do that, you don't even have to have your camera on if you don't want to. If you would like to speak your question out, at the bottom of the screen where it says participants, if you click on participants, next to your name, it will say raise hand, or at the bottom, it might say raise hand. If you'd like to actually speak to me, because it makes it quicker and we can answer your questions, then we can do that. If you're feeling a bit more shy and you prefer to type it in the box, just type in Q, so I know it's a question, and then type your question first and I will answer your question. So while I wait for anyone who wants to either kind of have a conversation, remember this is like a personal coaching for free while we're here. I won't be able to do this after this session, so I invite you to ask your questions here, or type any questions that you've got inside the chat box there, and I will answer them. I did have a question submitted before this, which I'm going to answer anonymously for the person as well. So I'm going to go on to that in a second. I just want to recap on some of the things that I've shared. When you're looking at setting your goals, your focus has to be on the goal, despite what's going on outside your boat. Okay, it has to be on the goal. So your only job is to get clear on your goal or goals, do them all separately, work on them one-on-one, you know, set your phone with a timer for 5 minutes and ask yourself that question. Get really clear on what you want. Disregard anything that you don't want. It doesn't help you. It gives the wrong instruction to your subconscious mind. If you've got any anxiety or fear around it, maybe it's going to be too much for you to remove that, then work with a coach. It doesn't have to be me. It could be with somebody who's a coach. Yes, you can talk it out amongst friends, but unless your friends know what they're doing or your family know specifically how to navigate the goals, you might find that you're kind of stuck in a loop. And sometimes when people come to me, that's exactly what happens. They've talked it over with hubby or, you know, girlfriend, boyfriend, other significant other, and it just keeps playing out as embedded. So look, if that's the next step you need, look at where you can do that within your organization, within your industry. You know, there's lots of resources out there that you can really tap into as well. The final thing that I do want to say about a goal, and I alluded to this right at the beginning when I was talking about the conversation I had with a specific managing director. When you set your goal, and this is why you need to do them one by one, set them and be very, very specific. Now, I know this seems nuts because you don't know when it's going to happen or what's going to happen. Set it really, really specifically. So here's how you get specific. You give it a date, not next year. When next year? Which month next year? You literally hone it down to a month. Then when you've got that month, which day of that month? You add that to your goal. And then when you've got the day of the month, what time of day? As an example, I want to run the marathon and finish it. Now, last year, there was a lot of movement. Everyone told me, oh, the crowds will cheer you on. And guess what happened? I ran the marathon with no crowds to cheer me on. Did that by myself with my headphones on. So for that, it was easier for me to say, I want to run the London Marathon by the 4th of October, 2020. And because I knew I wanted to finish it within a certain amount of time, I wanted to know that by 8 p.m. on the 4th of October, 2020, I could say I've run the London Marathon. So for your goals, when you're looking at what you wrote down, write it out, write out what you want, and add the date, the day, the time that you want to achieve it by. And the reason why this is so powerful is now you've got it down, written in that way, you can ask yourself the question, so what are my concerns? What am I worried about? And you can clean up those concerns. Most people that have gone through this exercise with me have actually achieved their goals by that date, or even before. And some of them haven't even done the thing where they've looked at it every day, because sometimes looking at it every day can remind you of what you haven't got, not what you're aiming to achieve. It lets you know whether to take an action to speak to somebody about your goal and who might be able to help you achieve it. It lets you know whether, if the goal is to do something where you've got to read through a book, then your next step might be, well, I'm going to read 1 page a day. I don't have a lot of time, but I'm going to read a page a day. I remember reading through things and thinking, I'm just going to read like five sentences, and then, you know, if I've got time, I'll read more. If not, I'll stop. Make it possible. And for those of you that are worried about the outside influences, this is a bit controversial, but I'm going to say to you, don't keep like your head in the news. Don't keep your head in the newspapers. Don't keep looking at the updates, because whilst you go to them to see what's happening, if it's causing you the kind of anxiety that's knocking you off the perch of getting your goal, then it's not serving you. Instead, fill your head with what I call brain food, things that serve you, motivational videos on YouTube. It could be music, you know, music that you love, music that makes you move, that makes you dance, even if you're working from home, you know, 5 minutes at lunchtime of listening to something upbeat. It could be reading an inspirational book. But for some of you, it's more about what you need to stop doing first than what to start doing. You know, I listen to the news updates when I want to and when I'm ready to, so that I don't get derailed in the, gosh, this is really awful piece. Going on to social media, whilst 79% of social media is deemed negative and, you know, not positive in any way, shape or form, there's still 29% of some really funny stuff out there, really funny stuff. Look to go for that instead. Limit your time on social media if you go on feeling hopeful and come off feeling full of dread. These are all really practical things you can do. And I want to say to you that even through this lockdown, even through the pandemic, I know of people that have like got new roles within the same industry, within travel. They've been promoted within travel. There are people that I've got a number of clients who have their own businesses, and one of them was a travel agent. And in the first quarter of last year, in March, in the first quarter of the lockdown, they ran a launch for a specific trip that they wanted to run, and they made over 17 days, they made over 1.2 million. So for any time that you think you can't, there's always things that you can. And I hope that some of the stuff that I've shared will help to keep your head in the game. I know that the ITT plan to share this. I've been recording it, so they plan to share this. So make sure that you're on their database and on your list so that you can go back and listen to this again, pause it, write down your goal, go back and do that. Okay. So all of that to say, for those of you that need to go, I know we've gone a bit over time. I'm going to answer a question that I received before this, because I think it's kind of a question for all of us. I'm just going to look on my phone and I just want to check. I haven't seen any questions in the chat and I haven't seen anyone raise their hands. You lot are a shy bunch. Let's have a look. Yeah, I haven't seen anyone raise their hand, so I want to make sure I don't miss out on anything. So the person's question would be, what would you recommend for someone who wants to set business goals but feels completely useless and undervalued due to the circumstances that are out of their control? So when I read, they've given me more context, but when I read the rest of the context, in this context, a business goal is for you if you're an employee. You're an employee and you want to set some goals at work, but you also feel like they're almost the outcome of those are out of your control. The circumstances are out of your control. The world, the environment is out of your control. So the first thing to do is get clear on what you would like instead. As an example, if I was sitting with this person here and coaching them, I'd say, okay, so it feels out of your control. What feels out of your control? They'd tell me the thing. And then I would say something like, or ask something like, so rather than feeling that things are out of control, what would you prefer instead in an ideal world? That question will elicit where you want to head towards. What do you want instead? And as I say, it's not always the opposite. It's not, you know, I feel cold and I'd like to feel warm. I'm a non-smoker and I'm a smoker and I'd like to be a non-smoker. Sometimes it's like, I want more energy. I want to feel happier. I want to feel more in control of what I do. I don't like, the environment that I'm in at the moment because, and there'll be a reason, it'll be different for everyone. So start to look at what do you want instead? That's a really great question. What would you rather have instead of feeling useless or undervalued, as an example, just using the words that they've said here? Something will come to mind and you write it down. That actually gives you almost like the destination. Okay, so instead of feeling undervalued or useless, I want to feel excited, energized, empowered, happier, focused, professional, whatever the word is. Now you've got that, you can start to look at, well, what would have to happen for me to feel, energized, whatever. And this is where it might seem random. It could be, well, I work really hard and I don't get a lot of sleep. So I feel tired and sometimes I'm a bit grumpy. I don't drink enough water, all these sorts of things. You can start to then see the hows come in afterwards. So make sure that if you're feeling like something's out of your control, remember, it's all outside of your boat. You can't control that, but you can control what's inside the boat. So what would you like to be inside the boat? I hope that is helpful. And I hope that it starts to put you in the steer of this. Most people that come to me haven't even really thought about specific goals that they want. So start to write them down. Do you want to eat more fruit and veg? Drink more water? Do you want to have more fun at weekends? Do you want to switch off at weekends and enjoy family time? Do you want to get into DJing? Would you like to write a book? Would you like to read a book? Would you like to get to know more about another person in your particular industry? Would you like to find a new mentor? What is that thing you'd like to do? Would you like to learn how to network throughout this kind of online piece? Whatever the thing is you want, start to name it and start to claim it. So hopefully helpful. I look forward to the next round we've got some special videos and stuff coming out on all sorts of things like how to be visible and put yourself out there on video. All sorts of things like how to have difficult conversations at work, all sorts of things around the visibility system that I created. So how to make an impact, how to share your story professionally, how to manage the time to do that how to give great presentations, all sorts of things like that. So make sure, if you haven't already, that you subscribe to the ITT Future Use YouTube channel and that you're connected with them on LinkedIn as well. They've got the ITT Future You there as well. Thank you so much. What I'd like to hear before we finish this is, please type in the box, what's one thing that you got from the session, and one thing that you got from the session that you're perhaps going to kind of take back into life with you? I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear. So I'm just reading some of the comments that you've already so one of you's already put, love the list. Hi, Yvonne. Love the list of things being outside of your boat and other ideas for future goals. Really helpful. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's great to see you on here as well. Put my glasses on. Gained lots of insights on how to manage my goals. We'll watch a video again to extract more information. Please do. It takes a few goes to go through it. And I'd love to hear of your wins and your goals. Kerry said she liked name it and claim it. It makes so much sense. It totally does. It seems really simplistic, but it's one of the most powerful tools. People have started businesses and, run races and done all sorts of really cool stuff with this. Some of my clients have got MBEs and things like that, and they still have used these tools to be able to go out there and put themselves out there. So what else have we got? A lot has resonated. Definitely be keeping my goals close to my chest. Sometimes there's a time to share and a time. It's a bit like, you know, if any of you has ever grown vegetables, when you plant the seeds and you look after them and keep them safe. Sometimes a goal is like that. Sometimes an idea is like that. It's to be harnessed. It's to be nurtured. It's to be looked after. So that's, you know, it's not about keeping secrets or being secretive, but sometimes keep your goals close to your chest, and then you've got no one with a second input telling you that no, that can't be done, because it's not their dream, it's not their goal. Loved it all. Not worrying about things outside my boat. Brilliant. Thank you so much. It's such a powerful metaphor. Thank you, Leslie. Like the idea of keeping a little goal book. I have got a goal book. I left it in the other room. I should have brought it with me, but it's not much bigger than this. And on every page, I write a goal. Here's the thing. If you're one of these people that have got a lot of goals, still write down the goal on every page and then look at focusing on a few at a time. Okay. You can safely focus on 12 at a time, believe it or not, without it being distracting. If it feels overwhelming, all the goals that you've written down, look at the one thing that would immediately make the biggest difference, even if it seems random. You know, I keep talking about sleep, drinking water and things like that, getting fresh air maybe. That might be the thing that makes the biggest difference to you being able to focus, concentrate when you're working from home. If you've got kids at home, take the kids out on a walk with you, tire them out so they sleep a bit more when they get in the house. So yes, definitely do that. What else we've got? Often thought sharing goals makes you accountable, but agree, others may be negative and deter you. So yeah, there's a big distinction. If it's an idea or a goal, and especially if it's something to you that people don't know you for, you're not known for, sometimes it's a great idea to keep it sacred. But as I shared with the marathon, when I got that message, within 10 minutes, I'd shared on Facebook, I'm running a marathon. I did that for public accountability. Because when people keep saying to you, how's the marathon training going? And you've been sat in the house and not doing anything, it kind of reminds you that you need to get out there and do something. It also, when you get started on your goals, chunk it into small pieces. So the first thing that I did was the Couch to 5K, the BBC app on the phone. I chose Jo Wiley's voice. I have a resonance with her from the radio. And at first I was running for like 60 seconds and walking for 90 seconds and then running for 60 seconds until you get to week 9 and you're running for like 35, 45 minutes. I've then run 5K. What did I do next? I then learned how to run 10K. So there are all sorts of things you can do that take smaller steps to help you get to that bigger goal. But it's like climbing a staircase. Take one step, stop, and then go take another. So, okay, let's have a look. Oh, thank you for that. I did miss that question. What if your concern about sticking to a goal is that you have failed to stick to it in the past? Love this question. Do something different. If you, if the reason that, so, you know, I talked about what is your concern. So if it's like, I want to do this goal, my concern is I've done it before and I didn't do it. Then say, you know, well, if you could do the goal and this time you do it, would you take it? Notice honestly within yourself, if you're still a bit like, yeah, keep asking the question. So now what's your concern? And the concern will come up. You might have 5, 6 concerns, but you'll get to a point where you'll say, here is the goal that I want. And if I could do it, and you list all your concerns without this concern, concern number 2, concern number 3, concern number 4, would I take it? You'll get to a point where you feel a yes. When you go past like 6 or 7 times and you still don't feel a yes, 99.9% of the time it's not a goal that you want. It's a goal that somebody else wants for you. Somebody well-meaning, sometimes a parent or somebody around you. It's not a goal that you want. I actually did this with a Chamber of Commerce, and one of the women, we got to the end of it, she said that she'd wanted to get a specific car. And when she got to that point, she kept asking and she just wasn't feeling it. And she kind of worriedly said also, my concern is that I still don't feel a yes. And when I asked her a few more questions, it turned out that her dad had always said, oh yeah, when you do this thing, you can have this car. And she kind of took it on and stuck with it and worked a lot of her working life with it. And now she reached it, she couldn't work out why she didn't want this car. And it was because it wasn't her goal, it was someone else's. So I don't know if that resonates with the person who asked that question. Sorry that I missed that. There were a few of those flying through there. So anyone else got any other questions or anything else they want to say? If not, I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much for coming. I really look forward to hearing from you. Do connect with me online, because I always like to know, you know, what you're up to and what you're doing. And I look forward to seeing you on the ITT's page and connecting with you out there on LinkedIn. Thank you so much.